I'm starting a series where I will react to subreddits. The first one is r/prorevenge. Let's get to it. This is over 5 years ago. I made a reservation for a large suite in an old bed and breakfast place. Paid deposit for a long weekend getaway a few hours away. When we arrived, owner had rented the place out to someone else. We had a discussion over the phone with her, as she could do nothing for us. She said we were trespassing and that she would call the cops. We found a different place to stay the week for the weekend and had a good time anyway. When we came home, I billed the for our whole weekend. Car, hotel, food totaling $1,200. She refused to pay, so I sued in the local small claims court. She countersued in her local small claims court for trespassing of all the insane choices. Before, since the court time was 800 hours, the judge admonished her and we got the judgment of all our expenses. She let her send us a check. Now we have to go to small claims in her town. I realized later I could have just sent a letter. It was a wasted day. But when the judge heard the case and exited judgment in the case, he was really pissed off at the rental owner. He ordered her to pay $400 for my expenses and told her she was abusing the courts. She now paid this as well. I feel the court made me whole and then some and considered the case closed. Fast forward almost 5 years. The B&B owner now calls me and tells me for that some reason the court had not registered that she had paid me, and credit agencies reported her with outstanding judgments. She was closing on her property and needed it to be fixed right away. I was not going to help her, but she said I could not remember this matter, and she offered to overnight me 2 new checks over again if I could just mail back a letter confirming the judgments were paid. I agreed, got certificate checks, and decided I was not exactly sure when or where to mail her the confirmation. Without my letter, she was not able to close on the property, and her purchase did not go through. I did not hear from her ever again. So that wasn't as pro-revenge as I thought it would be, but yeah, they tried to get a weekend rental place at a bed and breakfast, but the person running it was like, no, we already rented out your room, so you're trespassing now. Bye. Made some grammar mistakes or spelling mistakes. English is not my mother tongue. So I moved into a flat 2.5 years ago, and as you could read in the title, I like to refer to myself as a Basshead because I bought a 1500-watt sound system. I was careful about not annoying my neighbors, and it worked pretty well for everyone except for one mother living in the flat above me. As soon as my volume though was over 30%, she was standing in front of my doorstep, and I always turned down the volume down. So far, so good. But she started to come downstairs even when my sound system was turned off. Last Christmas, I came home and she unloaded a package from Pioneer from her car with a victorious smile on her face. It turned out to be a 900-watt system for her daughter. So Christmas Eve came around, and the daughter even tried the new system's power. I don't care much about music from the other flats, but the music even started to play when the daughter was in school. One day I was learning some hard stuff for my trainmanship and had these annoying R&B beats vibrating through the ceiling. So I went upstairs and asked her to turn down the music. Her answer was, "Do you know what it feels like for us?" and turned the system to the max. The game was on. I went to my flat and texted all the neighbors that it was going to be loud for 3 minutes. Sound system on, 100% power, 400 beats per minute, terrorcore music. Yes, I enjoyed this music. The track ended and I saw my neighbor standing in the garden with an angry look on her face. The next day she returned her system and spent something about 1.2 thousand euros on a bigger system around 1700 watts. Again, she came in with an even more victorious smile. After she was done building the system and she turned it to the max, I couldn't keep up with this kind of power with my private system. Too bad that she did not know that a friend of mine and me were having a small DJ business and some equipment too. So one day she went to work and my buddy came over with all of our equipment, including three, 3200 watts concert system, our monitoring system with 450 watts, and some adapters to connect to my 1500 watts to the whole construction. So we had a total of 5150 watts of sound systems set up and ready to destroy anything. She came home and I played my beloved hardcore on my home system on full power. She easily overpowered my system and I could see her in her mind, grinning in the kitchen. After 5 minutes, I turned my sound system off to connect it to our concert system. She turned the music down as well. Since this happened often, our other neighbors got used to this, but for safety, I sent another text that it was going to be really loud for half an hour. We informed the police and the landlord about us wanting to test our sound system on full power so my villain could call them, but they did allow us to try our system, so that part was from the table. We connected the systems, turned up the power to the maximum, and played the most aggressive set we could put together. You may imagine 30 minutes of 250 to 500 beats per minute of hardcore, up-tempo, and terrorcore is a torture for everyone who does not listen to this music. After we were done with our set, we turned everything off. Turns out that 5150 watt system in a 40 square meter flat was a little too loud and we were both kind of deaf. So our landlord, who was living down the road, stood in the garden and said, "This was way louder than I expected since you have this kind of equipment. Do you want to play some music?" But not that stuff I just heard at our company's parties. In the same moment, my personal sound villain joins our talk. Neighbor, how can you stand there and watch them be so damn loud? Landlord, they told me that this is going to be very loud, and I allowed them, and if I remember right, there were some complaints about you annoying your neighbors with your music. Turns out that almost all of my neighborhood are listening harder styles from time to time, and they hate the R&B stuff she was playing. So only she got complaints while I was the beloved part of the neighborhood. She sued me for harassing her with noise and she lost the case, having to pay 500 euros in compensation for false accuses. On top of this, she lost her flat, and I only have to pay 60% of my rent for DJing on my landlord's company's parties for free. Whew, that was one long story. But I think that Nader totally got what she deserved. And yeah, it was insane how he would turn it down every time and she would just say, and when he finally was like, "Hey, could you please turn it down?" She was like, "Nope." B bully me lol F friends. This story happened quite recently and I've been meaning to share. I don't consider myself the most popular kid in school, but I certainly have friends. And at the time I was around 6'1", I believe, so I usually don't get hassled. But there was this one kid who really pissed me off, and quite a lot of other people in my school and form, who would usually just be massively annoying every time I see, which is often because we are near in the register. What he would usually do is call my dad a pseudo or stuff like that. He would also be randomly very aggressive and randomly lash out, like when I tackled him in football or refused to give him my homework, which he can never be bothered to do. B is also very unhygienic. He would regularly touch his thing and then touch me in the ass. B would also fart, then blame it on me. Remember this as it is important for later on. As well as this, B was also incredibly arrogant and flashed his 600 followers around like a diamond Rolex. And us the fact that he is the A team for football as the most amazing comeback, I guess he means cornerback, anyone's ever heard. Usually, after I defend F, as B would make fun of his slight lisp and the fact that he had a whisks ruler. Weird insult, I know. So one day comes, I'm just minding my own business, struggling through a geography lesson, and B says, I'm going to see your pathetic pseudo dad at parents' evening. And I turn to him and say something along the lines of, I doubt your parents are particularly impressive if they made a weed with a massive mouth. And B looks set to murder me with his ruler, and he shouts, You're intimidated by me, and we all know it. You're a lanky prick. I couldn't believe he was being so pathetic. I knew I had to do something before his ego burst. Revenge. So that night, I brought one of those stink bombs that stink after weeks and smell absolutely awful. And the following day, I arrive super early and begin to watch him come into the school and start playing football. And I casually walk up and as if I had no beef with the others and quickly swipe his bag. When he caught up insulting some poor kid, I rip back the tag on the stick bomb and it does in first period. I put my phone on record and angle it to him, and this isn't hard as he sits next to me and he shouts, Ugh, me, you farted. And I say back, I think it's coming from your bag, trying not to grin uncontrollably. And he opens his bag and noticed the stink bomb. It was the liquid kind and has gone all over his books. He looks at me with a face I'll never forget, and he lunges at me surprisingly slowly, and I spring back and watch as B trips over and flies 1 meter across the room. Everyone is laughing, and I got it all on video. I won't show it as it contains faces. And I begin sharing the video across the school, and B gets a taste of his own medicine. B couldn't take 1 week of the hell he gave me and moved schools a week prior. That was r/prorevenge. I hoped you liked it, and if you did, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll make more.